Hello, thank you for joining us today for our Wednesday webinar. My name is Scott Cook. I'm the Communications Director here at the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs. We're going to be talking about social media smarts today. It's just kind of a presentation, just give you a little bit of tips of things to consider when you're using social media and some different ways that that information, that data can be used either to target you for advertising a little bit, also scam prevention, that type of stuff. So as we get started, we'll kind of first talk about digital footprint. In digital footprint, we're just kind of talking about the information that's online about you. And it's either information that you've posted, or it can also be information that other people either intentionally or unintentionally have posted about you. So kind of just think about that, different types of ways you use the internet and your phones, particularly probably watch videos. You may be creating content on social media, posting photos, videos, playing games, anything like that. And it also, like we said, if your family and friends are also posting things online and they're tagging you, that becomes part of your digital footprint as well. So we kind of talk a little bit about just kind of knowing your digital footprint. Just kind of realize that it's growing over time and it's going to expand as you post different info and things like that. And in most cases, it's going to be searchable and viewable to a variety of different people online as well. And as I just said, it's not always just up to you and other people like your friends, maybe a company that you work for, groups that you belong to. When they track things or post things online or share information about you, that can become part of your digital footprint. And I'll give you a couple of examples of that here in just a second. But also kind of consider that these things are permanent. The internet kind of archives things in a lot of different places in a lot of different ways. So just realize that that information is very hard to erase, and a lot of times it just doesn't ever really go away. I'll give you a quick example of something that I recommend doing. If you haven't put in your name on an online search anytime recently, I kind of encourage everybody to do that from time to time. And it's just kind of a quick way to kind of see a little bit about your digital footprint. This is a quick example that I did with my own name, and lucky for me, I have kind of a generic name that there's probably a lot of Scott Cooks out there in the world. But you notice when I do the quick search here with Google that the first person that comes up is not me. It's a executive with Toyota USA, so definitely not me. Then kind of below that are some of the examples of things that come up with my name. A lot of search engines do kind of tailor that search based on kind of where you are and where your location is. So, you're kind of seeing those localized things as well, where there's a news release on our agency website that was posted when I was named the communications director. You'll see that, and then you'll kind of see some other things that were posted with my name online, and a lot of those are television interviews and things like that that I've done for various places across the state. But then, you can also kind of make those searches a little bit more specific. So I made this one with South Carolina, and I was just kind of interested in what images may be out there and tied to my digital footprint. You'll see the first couple are videos of me talking, but you also see, especially there on that right side on the front line, photo of me giving a presentation somewhere. And then one of the libraries in Pickens County had my name included on something that they put out with a identity theft and scam presentation we did. But then you also kind of see a lot of other things, an insurance agent that comes up that is not me. On the bottom row, there's a upstate warrior success story, not me as well. But again, it's just kind of those quick things you can do to kind of look online, see what's coming up. Of course, just putting the phrase South Carolina in there, you get a lot of basketball and athletic stories tied with the university that aren't necessarily me, but it's just kind of a quick summary of kind of some of the things that might show up when you're kind of searching your own name, and just kind of realizing what's out there about you may be a good idea, especially if you're looking for a job or something like that. And I've got kind of an example here of something that's kind of tied to my digital footprint that wasn't necessarily something that I've posted or anything, but it is something that somebody posted about me. But it is a photo I took on vacation a few years ago at Glacier National Park, and I posted it on a social media account that's been long deleted. But the photo still kind of lives on the internet when you start searching through photos tied with me. Again, it's an account that I've deleted, but the photo's been attached to a profile that another company made about various people. This happens to be kind of tied in some news articles that I wrote when I worked for a television station. So they kind of gathered a little bit of that information about me and posted stuff with my name and articles that I had written and kind of tied that into various things online. But you know, that photo kind of still lives on, even though the account that it was originally posted has long been deleted for several years now. It was just kind of a good example that things may not always disappear when you delete something. It doesn't mean that it's gone. And a lot of folks are kind of surprised to realize that, you know, even Snapchats can be saved, the Instagram stories are saved, just things like that. So just kind of keep in mind, even though some of these social media platforms may claim that the data isn't always there, a lot of times they're saving that stuff in some type of storage. So if there is a situation where there is some type of hacking or something like that, that data can be there. Some cases, law enforcement will ask those companies for that data so they can get that from them as well. I know there's been some cases where that's come out where, you know, things that people thought were encrypted were, you know, tied in, law enforcement, things like that, or even hacking attempts were able to get some of that data. So just kind of keep in mind that that stuff can be out there for forever. And just kind of think about, you know, things that you've maybe posted or considering posting and how that may be used in the future. And as we say, our digital footprint kind of keeps growing. So even from when we're young to when we're, you know, much older, years from now, that data will still be out there and that digital footprint will exist on each and every one of us, especially if we're using social media. So again, it's just kind of that idea that social media follows. And there's kind of real world ramifications sometimes for that. Some of the info that we're about to go into is from the Harris poll. They did a survey of hiring managers that use social media as kind of a screening tool. And when they, I think the first time they did it was 2006. And back then only 12% of hiring managers were using social media to screen kind of candidates that were applying for jobs. And then by 2010, that number had grown to 25%. And now it's 71%. It may be even getting higher than that. I think the last time I looked at their poll, it did say 71%. But, you know, just kind of keep in mind, a lot of businesses out there, if you're looking for a job, they will go through social media, just kind of see what type of person you are. And kind of the things that that poll found were, you know, things like provocative or inappropriate content may be one reason that hiring managers are kind of reluctant to hire somebody. And they may be concerned about posts about drinking, drug use, things like that, or maybe discriminatory comments. So any of those types of things that are out there and tied to your name could be a reason that somebody doesn't necessarily hire you. We have a couple of quick examples for that. And one of them is, you know, we've got a couple of different little quotes from here from different situations people reported. The first one's, I worked with somebody who was fired after calling in sick. He said he felt bad and couldn't work his weekend shift. And while he was sick, he posted photos on social media saying he was on vacation in the mountains with his friends. The person who had to cover his shift saw that post and then told their boss. And then that person was fired the day he returned from that trip. Next example we have is kind of a prospective employee just passed an interview and was told all he needs to do is pass a drug test and a physical, and he'd start on Monday. Somebody found that the new hire was on Facebook and the guy had just posted 20 minutes after the interview. Anyone know how to pass a drug test in 24 hours? So needless to say, that person was not hired. Then kind of our quick last example with that was a coworker who was fired recently because he got caught sneaking off from the job to smoke weed and drink. The moron would post photos of him smoking and drinking on Facebook. The boss found out and predictably fired him on the spot. This guy was almost 30 years old. So again, kind of those real world ramifications. Hopefully nobody on this webinar is doing anything quite that ridiculous, but it's just kind of idea again that there can be ramifications for things that you post on social media, and there's some things that you may just want to keep to yourself and not necessarily put out there for other people online. And we've got a couple of quick examples that we also kind of found from South Carolina with a quick little search online. Got some medical center employees who were fired for using a racial slur on Facebook. Recently, there was some school employees fired as well for some inappropriate post. And then the last one was a video that was posted on social media. It wasn't posted by the police officer, but somebody posted video of the police officer doing something, and he was fired over that post because the mayor decided it wasn't, something that reflected the views of the town. So again, these things, even though that person didn't post something in this situation, he was fired for, his actions. And kind of a quick reminder too, again, there can be those real world ramifications, especially in cases where you're posting threats or something like that. In this case, there's some student who posted something. I know a lot of the little school threats, especially through like TikTok challenges and things like that, were kind of coming up for a little while. In this case, student was arrested and charged after making some threats online. So again, it's just kind of that idea of being mindful of what you post and realize that, there are ways for, law enforcement, especially to figure out what you've posted if it's threatening in any way, but also just kind of realize that anything you post can end up being seen by other people, even if your accounts are set to private and things like that. So we'll just kind of get into some different things to watch out for. And I'd really, again, encourage people, keep in mind, all of these things can happen on any type of social media platform. It's not just one. And again, even these apps that, aren't supposed to keep your videos for very long, there are ways that people save those videos and they can use them later. It's just kind of, a reminder to be kind of mindful about what you're posting out there and think about the consequences of it. And so we'll kind of get a little bit into staying safe on social media and some of the different scams that are out there. And a lot of times, we say social engineering, scammers will use information that they find about you online. I know a lot of people always ask me, how did they, how did these scammers, when they call me, how did they know who my family members are? How do they know, these different businesses that I might use? And a lot of times it is social media, especially if your accounts are set to public. They'll go through those and kind of take a look at your profile and see kind of what services you use, maybe some of your family members, some of your friends, what types of groups you're part of, and they'll kind of directly engineer those scams, towards those things that are specific to you. And kind of one of the things that we always tell people is to stop sharing your personal info for anybody to guess those passwords and security questions. Again, a lot of times that information's out there on social media, so just really kind of think twice about, what you're sharing and the details that you're sharing. A lot of times in these surveys that will ask you things or different trends that may be out there, they may be asking you for a lot of different things that are either passwords or security questions that are used for a lot of stuff, or maybe it's just different personal information that could be out there that scammers like to get about you. So just kind of really keep in mind about what you're sharing online and how all that different information can be used about you. And I like this graphic. I think I used it a few weeks back on something else, but the Federal Trade Commission put out some information a little while back, and I think this goes up until June of this year. But they take a look at just kind of the age ranges of people who are victims of scam and fraud loss, and they look at, the dollar amounts that they lose in that. A lot of times I hear people say, it's all older people who are getting scammed, and that's not true. It's a big range of us. And if you look at that little graph there, people in their 30s are actually getting scammed the most with this, according to these losses by 100,000 population. So people in their 30s, the most often victims of these types of scams. But you also kind of realize too, looking at it, that, as you get older, those victims are losing more money. So that's kind of where some of that idea comes from, that older folks are, victims more than that. Probably comes from that. But, as people do get older, they are losing a good deal more. And you'll kind of realize that those people in their 80s who are falling victims to scam, kind of losing 3 times the money of somebody in their 30s. So, $1,500 kind of compared to that $466 there. So just kind of something to keep in mind. And I have a couple of quick things that we can look at with that. Just kind of think this is interesting. People in their 19 to 29, They're falling victims, according to the FTC, most commonly online shopping scams. That's not, too surprising. Then we add business imposters, investment, job scams. So, think about people who are early on in their careers or getting started in their careers. Job scams, makes sense that they would fall victim to that. Then we have government imposters on that as well. And also kind of just pull the kind of top scams for people in their 70s. You'll see it's pretty similar. Some of the numbers that kind of move around on that as well, but business imposters, big scams. So those emails that you get that pretend to be Amazon or, maybe your bank account, something like that. Those are kind of the top things that people in their 70s are falling victim to a lot of times. Again, online shopping, we're all falling victim to that type of scam. Tech support scams, again, government imposters, and then investment and investment advice scams. So really our kind of advice for all of these types of things, just kind of keeping, an open mind when it comes to scams, that they can be all shapes, sizes, all different types. Any way that we communicate, scammers communicate. So you might be getting these scam phone calls, might be getting something in the mail, text messages, or especially effective way that they're communicating right now. And of course, emails, but then those fake websites and social media, of course, and things always happen in person. But, the big thing is these scammers want your money and they will also want your information. Sometimes that can even be better for them. They can get, they can sell that information, or they can also use it to target you with other scams. So, or even identity theft type situations. So when it comes to identity theft, just kind of keep in mind that a lot of times it does start with us, that we're the ones who kind of accidentally give information away, or we may be posting it on social media, or we may give it to somebody who calls us, but a lot of times it's us that kind of gives those details away to a scammer or an identity theft situation. So just kind of, really take a look at the things that we do and can control, and start to look at, who we're giving our information to and maybe how that could be used, and think a little bit more about it. But, identity theft can also happen in a variety of other ways, like lost, stolen wallets, security breaches, sometimes theft by family and friends. That's unfortunate, but sometimes that happens, especially with people who might share a name that's very similar, family members. And I know a lot of people, my family, have some of the same first names sometimes, and that can be a common situation where something like that might happen with an identity theft situation. Just kind of keep in mind all that type of stuff. And kind of our number one rule for all of these is just really think about your information and don't give it away, right? Don't give any of your personal or financial information to somebody when you don't know or you can't verify who they are. It's just a really big, good piece of advice to keep in mind, and especially follow that rule when you're on social media, and it'll help protect you against a variety of scams that are out there. And kind of as we talk about that, we're going to get into a couple of different social media scams that are fairly common. And again, number one thing that we mentioned earlier were online shopping scams. Again, everybody's kind of falling victim to this, and it may be, something that you see online on social media. There may be an advertisement that's pushing you to a website and everything looks real, but there may be selling these items at a huge discount. And when you place those orders, you put all your credit card information in there and things like that, you never get those items. And again, those are targeting everybody, and a lot of people fall victim to that. A lot of us say, I'll never fall victim to any of this stuff, but especially these online shopping scams and things that you're seeing in social media, just kind of keep in mind what's out there. And you might want to stick to trusted, well-established websites. And I'd kind of add to that too, if you're seeing those ads on social media, maybe don't click on those, but if they're claiming to be a certain retail site, maybe go to that website on your own and not click the link and go to it, just because we know scammers will spend money on social media to run advertisements. They'll spend money to make money, just like a regular business would, unfortunately. You always want to also shop on secure websites. So when you're looking at those website addresses, look for the S after the HTTP. So it should say HTTPS. And it probably has a lock on the left of the URL as well. And kind of the best advice I always tell people is only use your credit card when you're shopping online. And the reason we say that is because those debit cards can be that direct tie into your checking account or your banking account. So if something happens with that, that money is directly tied to you, and that money can be taken out pretty quickly by these scammers and these hackers. So you want to protect that information, and it can take a little while to get that money back. So if you're dependent on that checking account to, pay your mortgage or your rent or, maybe your car payments or whatever, if that money is drained out pretty quickly, it can mess up those payments. So really you want to use a credit card, and that's going to give you a little bit more protection and a little bit easier to report and get that money back onto your account. It's a little bit quicker too than your direct bank account. And also just a reminder to check your financial statements, keep your receipts, just kind of monitor that stuff fairly frequently. You don't want to have all these charges pile up that you're not aware of, and it happens over a long period of time. So the sooner you can find those things, the better. Kind of our next type of scam that's out there on social media are these quiz and survey scams. So you might see something that says, take this survey and get a free gift card, or take this quiz and you're entered to win a free TV, something like that. A lot of times those things are a scam. I know I get messages with these all the time. Kind of the quick ones that I pulled right out of my email right away were kind of these, sign up right now, get $90 promo rewards for McDonald's. I tell you, there's no way that they have my email address. You can also kind of take a look at where those things are coming from and realize pretty quickly that they're likely a scam. And here's another one that I get all the time too, something like this, where they're saying, they're giving away a new Yeti backpack cooler. We all know those things are pretty expensive. So, and again, just kind of knowing that my email shouldn't be tied to anything with those companies. Pretty quick examples of, things that I know are fake, or, something that I wouldn't be getting those offers from, but just kind of keep those in mind as you get them. And of course, they're asking you for a lot of personal information. You probably don't want to give that to them, especially if, somebody that you haven't really dealt with in the past. And if you're getting these messages, if it's either email, text, social media messages, you really want to kind of think about it for a second. Don't click on any of the links or respond to those unexpected messages that are coming in. That's pretty good advice for all types of scams. And if you think the offer is legit, you might want to contact the company or the website, or whoever's kind of behind that. So if you thought that was a real offer coming from McDonald's or somebody like that, you might want to go to their website on your own, like I said, and kind of double check it. Or maybe they have a customer service phone number you can call, and you can just kind of ask them those details to see if those messages are real. And again, kind of the important thing is you don't want to use those messages that are coming in. So you don't want to use the phone numbers or websites or any of that they send you in those messages. And again, kind of just a brief reminder, you never want to send money in order to claim a prize. Those prizes are supposed to be something that are free. You don't want to send them money. A lot of times they'll just say, hey, you got to pay $5 for shipping or something like that. But, generally speaking, you don't want to send money to claim a prize. Our next example, again, it was one of those ones that older people fall victim to, and younger people as well. Just these investment and cryptocurrency type scams that are out there on social media. A lot of times they'll promote some kind of fake investment opportunity, or connect with people directly, sending them messages telling them that they're making a lot of money, and they are encouraging you to invest in the same type of thing that they're involved in. So really just kind of be mindful of that. And anytime somebody's promising huge returns, watch out for that as well, because a lot of times you can end up empty-handed. You'll be sending a lot of money to these fake investment guys, and they're not really investing anything from you. They're just putting it in their own pocket. We've got a couple of quick examples of this as well. We've got one article here where we had there was a time when there was a good bit of Elon Musk impersonators out there, and they were sending people a lot of direct messages for crypto scams. And then there were some celebrities, including Joe Biden, Barack Obama. I believe Elon Musk was one of them as well, that had their accounts hacked. And you'll see all of the messages that were kind of posted onto, this was Twitter at the time, which is now X, of course, but you know, all of these people whose accounts were hacked, they were all kind of posting the same types of messages telling people, you know, send me Bitcoin. If you send $1,000, I'm going to send you $2,000 back. And again, they'll say, you know, a lot of times in this case, they said, we're only doing this for 30 minutes. So you were supposed to react pretty quickly to this message, send them $1,000, and they're going to send you $2,000. And if you kind of think about that for a second, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because, you know, why would the former president be sending people, you know, extra money if they send it to them? And a lot of times, you know, just these promises of, if you send me money, I'm going to send you money, it just doesn't make sense, right? So just kind of the defense for these types of things, just kind of keep in mind that a lot of these offers, that if they say they're going to disappear soon, it's just not true. You know, legitimate offers, you know, legitimate investment opportunities, they're not going to disappear overnight or quickly. Like in that case, it said 30 minutes. It just doesn't make sense. And again, don't feel pressured to make a quick decision. And if anybody's telling you you've got to recruit other people in order to make money, that's likely a scam. And just kind of important thing to note with Bitcoin and, you know, cryptocurrency type stuff as well, is just also a lot of times on social media and stuff, they'll send you a message and say you need to move money to a Bitcoin ATM or some kind of cryptocurrency ATM. A lot of times they're in a gas station or something like that, but you're never going to have to move money to one of those machines in order to protect it or to fix a problem. And then that's kind of one of the scams that they'll say now is, got a problem with your bank account, you need to move your money from that bank into a cryptocurrency ATM. And that's, you know, just not how banks and how financial institutions work. So anytime somebody's telling you to move money to protect it or to fix some kind of problem with an account, just realize that's a pretty big red flag of a scam that's going on. And we'll kind of move into some other quick types of scams that are out there on social media. Job scams, of course, and again, these were ones that particularly target younger people, and then kind of seasonal times too. We see these types of things kind of pop back up, but just kind of be wary of any job that seems too good to be true or ask you to pay money for training or something like that. And you never want to provide any personal information without really kind of investigating the company and knowing who you're dealing with. Kind of our, you know, key things to think of when we're talking about defending against these types of scams. Just kind of, the first one seems a little obvious, but did you apply for that position? If you're getting a message kind of out of the blue about a job post, there's, you know, pretty good likelihood that it, you know, could be a scam. I know sometimes there are, you know, job hunters that are out there kind of looking for people to hire, but, you know, if you didn't apply for a position and you're being told that you've got it, that's a pretty good sign that it's a scam, especially if you haven't done any kind of interview or anything like that. And again, you shouldn't have to pay money for a job. So if they're asking you to pay money for training or any of those types of things, there's likely chance that it's a scam. Pretty good chance, I should say. Another just kind of good piece of advice is search online for those companies' names. You might want to put the word scam, the word review, or the word complaint after that company's name when you're doing those online searches. Just kind of see what you can find out about them. And it's always a good idea just to talk to people that you trust about any kind of offer. If something seems odd, maybe just discuss it with people and see what they think. Because a lot of times just, you know, talking things through will help you find those signs of a scam that you might have missed. And a lot of times, you know, on social media, we'll see kind of these online influencer scams, and they can, you know, be anything from a fake profile that tries to mimic somebody that's, you know, out there. So some of those famous people, or, you know, somebody that you see online a good bit, maybe it's a big name company that they'll, you know, create these fake accounts and try to, you know, pretend to be those other people. That's kind of a lot of what we see with this type of stuff. A lot of times, you know, they may reach out to you out of the blue and offer you some kind of role as a brand ambassador. I've gotten this a few times myself where, you know, sunglass company or something, you know, supposedly sends you a message out of the blue and says, I like your style or something. I'm like, well, I really doubt that. I don't think you know me that well. But, you know, they may just kind of give you these types of, you know, again, kind of something like that where they're saying, we can give you this product or this money to help represent us, but they're, again, not who they say they are, and there's some kind of tie with it where they're looking for information or something like that. Or they may even hold some kind of contest, and then they're going to ask that winner to pay a fee or something like that, and maybe give some bank account numbers, something to get their prize. But again, you just want to keep an eye for that and just kind of know who you're dealing with. Maybe look for those verifications that they're actually who they say they are. And of course, you always want to be, mindful and cautious of messages that come out of the blue. Like I said, is that account verified? What are the social media platforms that have a check or something like that, depending on which type of account you're using. But usually there's some kind of marker that will say it's verified. But again, kind of like what we mentioned earlier, sometimes those accounts can be hacked. So just kind of keep an eye for that. And if you're getting messages from them, just also keep an eye out if they're sending you personal email addresses or some numbers that don't seem to be related to the company at all. So those are always good things to keep in mind if you're getting messages from these types of people. And we always tell people, do not give out your personal or financial information, especially if you can't verify that they're who they actually say they are. And again, all kind of age ranges fall victim to online dating scams. A lot of times we'll just call them friendship scams, things like that. They don't always have to involve romance, but a lot of times with these types of things, they're trying to win somebody's trust, things like that, and then they'll try to get money. Maybe it's personal information. So just kind of watch out for these types of things and keep in mind that if somebody's not going to video chat you or meet you in person, especially, that's a pretty big warning sign that they're not who they say they are. And again, our kind of defense with a lot of these is talk to somebody you trust, right? If things aren't quite sounding like you want them to sound and things aren't quite right, you can always talk to other people and see what they think. And know that scammers are out there with a lot of kind of excuses about why they can't meet, bad things that have happened to them, and just kind of different reasons why they might need cash from you. So anytime anybody, is asking you for money, it's just kind of a good, warning sign, and you never want to send money to people, especially if you haven't met them in real life. It's kind of a big piece of advice for a lot of these types of scams. Just don't send your money to somebody you've not met in real life. And we kind of call this one a wrong number scam, but you can get these through social media as well, and it kind of can lead into some of the same type of stuff. But you might be getting messages that might be kind of innocent. Meet for coffee. Hi, how are you? And a lot of times they're just wanting some kind of reaction back. So they're wanting to get a conversation started with you. So that's kind of why we tell people, don't message these people back. Because if you do, they're going to start another conversation up with you, and it might, start asking for, might be personal information. It might be just kind of a conversation to befriend you. This case, there was one that one of our employees was getting for a while that was, somebody who would pretend that they met on a dating app site or an application or something, and then they would start up a conversation or try to say, hey, we didn't meet up. Do you want to get together? And then when they say wrong number, the messages would really kick up. So after that, a lot of photos, a lot of different messages start pouring in. And again, they're just trying to get that conversation going. Could either be to befriend you or just kind of get some type of trust going. And then, eventually there'd be some kind of request for money or personal information or something like that. So really kind of the best advice is don't let them get those conversations started. So you don't want to reply to messages from people you don't know. And you don't want to click any of the links that might be in those messages if they're sending you links to something. You just never know where those links will go. Really the best advice for any of these types of messages, if it's social media or text or whatever, is you just want to block them, ignore anything that's coming in from people you don't recognize, and then block that person. And if it's on social media, usually you can report it either, to Facebook or X or Instagram, whoever, whatever type of account you're using, you want to report those users to that account as well. So what do you do now? Kind of some of the best advice we have is just take your birthday off all your accounts. You don't want that information especially available to the public. I know I've gone through and told different friends, family that I have, I've been able to go through and just kind of quickly look and say, hey, you've got all kinds of information about you that's public that anybody who looks at your account can be able to see. So you want to make sure all that stuff's not showing up and that you've taken all that type of information off. And it's also a good idea just to make those accounts private, so people aren't able just to grab any type of information about you that may be out there. It's also a good idea to not geotag your location. So that would be, when you can go on social media and say you're at a specific place. I know for a while I had my accounts, one of them set to public, and sure enough, anytime that I tagged my location somewhere, a flood of spam messages would start to come in, because anybody can find out, who's posting in those public spots, and then they can message all those people. So just kind of keep in mind that anytime you're doing that, if your accounts are set to public and you're tagging those locations, people can find that out and then start sending you messages. So it's a good idea, again, keep things private and not necessarily tag your location in a lot of things. Also, a reminder, you also don't want to link all of your accounts, so you can use the same password, or you can link them all so they're all connected. Just kind of keep in mind, if somebody's able to hack one and you have them all connected, that person can then get into all of those accounts and either change the information in them or send all your friends messages claiming to be you, things like that. So it's just kind of a good reminder not to link all of those accounts. Our next piece of advice is just make all your passwords different from one another. And that's one we've been really talking about a lot during Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Making those passwords strong, making them unique. And again, you don't want to make everything the same password, so if they get one account's password, they can get into everything. And you also want to use two-factor or multi-factor authentication when it's offered, especially on social media accounts and financial accounts. And again, that's just going to be that extra step, extra security. So if somebody does get your password, it's then twice as hard for them to get into your account. So it's kind of adding that extra security layer on there, and it makes it twice as hard for people to access any of your social media or financial accounts. And we pretty much tell people to use that everywhere you can. And if somebody's messaging you, it can be social media or text message or whatever, and you're getting those conversations started, if they're telling you not to tell anybody, you want to run. You want to get out of that situation as fast as you can. So if somebody's telling you, don't tell anybody about this investment opportunity, or a lot of times in romance scams, they'll say, don't tell anybody about this relationship we have, and they won't understand, or something like that. But if they're telling you not to talk to other people about it, you want to get out of there. You want to get out of that situation and not be involved in it. And also, don't trust social media sites to protect you, right? So again, kind of like what we were saying with those advertisings, we know that some cases these fraudulent sites will spend money to run ads and things on social media. So you want to just kind of keep that in mind, that not everything on social media is what it says it is, and you don't want to necessarily leave it up to those companies to protect you. So you want to take steps yourself. Again, you don't want to always trust what's out there. Do the things you can to protect your money and your information. I'm going to run through our quick roadmap to avoid scams here real fast. And these are things we tell people with all types of scams, because we know, these scams can kind of change from day to day, or once you kind of figure out what's going on with one type of scam, they change to something else. So really kind of the best advice is don't answer calls, respond to text messages or social media messages, when you don't know who they are, and you want to block those people when they start sending you those messages. You don't want to give financial or personal information to those requests that you didn't expect. Legitimate businesses aren't going to just send you a message out of the blue telling you, that there's some kind of problem with your account, or, that you owe money, and then they're going to start asking you for all kinds of details like that. If you're really doing business with that person or that company, they should have some of those details themselves already. So just kind of watch out for any of those requests that you're not expecting. And don't fall for high pressure tactics. Anybody's telling you you've got to make a decision or pay right away or give them your information right away, they're likely a scammer as well. And it's important to know those forms of payments that scammers like. They like to, request gift cards, cryptocurrency, wire transfers. Again, these are things that may be a little bit more difficult to trace, and a lot of times they're impossible to get that money back. Once you send over you know, those gift card numbers or those cryptocurrency information, the details on those accounts. Once you send that stuff over, that money's gone. So that's kind of why they like those types of payments. So really kind of be cautious anytime you're getting those requests for payments that way. Just kind of know too, like especially government agencies, courts, things like that. A lot of times scammers will say they represent a judge or something, and you've got to pay them with a gift card or a cryptocurrency ATM. You know, real government agencies don't take money that way. So just kind of think about those types of requests as well. And as we've mentioned a couple of times, anytime you're getting requests, something doesn't just sound right to you, you know, stop, talk to somebody you trust. You know, before you do anything, maybe have that conversation with somebody, a family friend or neighbor or something like that. Just kind of talk to them about what happened and what that person's asking you to do. See what they think of the situation. A lot of times, you know, even as you start to say things out loud, you'll kind of realize that things aren't what they seem to be. And I'm going to take a look here. I know we've got one question. My computer, sometimes the window's a little hard to get. And somebody, this is a pretty good question about emails that you were getting. There's say, you know, it sounds like it's the emails that tell you you can unsubscribe by clicking the button on it. You know, there may be things that you haven't asked for, things like that. They're asking, should you block them? Or if you should click, you know, the unsubscribe button. I'd say kind of the safest thing to do is to use that block button. I know I do that on mine. You just never kind of know, especially if you're getting stuff out of the blue like that. That unsubscribe link may go somewhere else. So if you can't tell where that link's going to go to and you're not really sure why you're getting that message, I think the safest thing to do would be just to block it, especially if it's on your phone. That's usually fairly simple. I know mine, you can just kind of swipe over and then it will give you that little option to block the sender. That's going to be a little bit safer for you. You know, if it's something where it's the grocery store email that you've signed up for, something and you know it's absolutely legit, that unsubscribe button may be something you want to use, but you know, especially those things that you're not really sure where they're coming from or why you're getting it, I would definitely say use that block button. That's going to be a much better tool for you, and it's going to be safe. We thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.